So I think most of you know, Sarah and I took Thursday and Friday off to celebrate our 12 years of marriage, and our anniversary was actually in the end of November, but we had busy times happening, so we took this past weekend to celebrate. We got somebody sneaking up the stairs. So anyhow, I normally talk about what I'm thinking about, what God's talking to me about, what's happening in my life. So this morning is no exception. Now, I realize I've only been married 12 years. John Smirker, how many years have you been married? 24. Look at that. He's got me doubled. So sometime John Smirker is going to talk about marriage, and then you better listen up. But this morning I'm talking about it, and you can still listen if you'd like. So a couple things. We haven't had any kids, so a lot of people say your life changes when you have kids and marriage becomes much more difficult. I believe that is true. We haven't had any kids, so I can't talk about that. We've been relatively free of lots of stress, aside from all the self-induced stress we put upon ourselves by working full-time jobs, fixing up houses nights and weekends, putting Sarah through school, all that stuff happening at the same time simultaneously, getting very little sleep. That's the kind of stress that we've had, and I guess going on the world race is another stressor, where we lived with young adults, and I think we had our own bedroom 3 months out of most of a year. So that was a little stressful, but that's kind of our life. We haven't had health issues really to speak of, so we've been very blessed. So all this is coming from my experience. So you can discount everything away if you'd like. I do not mind. And I just want to talk about what we think, Sarah and I think, that has made our marriage successful, and what we're glad we really took time to do, especially in the beginning of our couple first years of marriage. Dad told me right away when we got married, early on, he said, Jason, you're establishing norms for your marriage that are going to be hard to change down the road. So think carefully about what you do in your marriage, because it's going to become a habit, and it's going to be something that's going to be hard to change later on. Doesn't mean it's impossible to change, it's just that it's hard. So I would say our experience with marriage is that doing the right things at the right time make marriage fun, easy, and rewarding. Easy might be something that people will discount, but I actually think in the whole grand scheme of things, our marriage is easy because we choose to do some hard things at the right time. And so if you're not married, if you're not dating, if you're not in some kind of long-term relationship like that, what I'm talking about today applies to any long-term friendship that you might have, whether you're married or not. So if you have really good friends that you hang out with a lot, that are really close to you, all the same things apply, but it especially applies to marriage. So doing the right things. These are 4 things that when people talk to me about, hey, what do you do that you love about marriage? It's these things right here. So communicate for understanding. Number 2, always resolve conflict. Number 3, be looking for ways to change and learn. Number 4, protect time together. So number 1, communicate for understanding. There's a difference, because I guess I'll just back up a little bit. You hear this thing of communicate, like it's the most important thing in the world. It is, but how you communicate is really key. When you communicate to be understood and to understand, it changes a lot. Because if there's 2 people talking at each other and nobody's listening, you're not really communicating to understand. So something Sarah and I always do is we don't stop talking or listening till we feel understood, because only then can there be a real level of trust and closeness. So, make sure I'm not going into my next point. Yes. So when we start communicating on something, the most important thing is that Sarah understands how I'm feeling or why I think the way I do, not that she necessarily agrees with what I am saying or thinking. Does that make sense? So if she understands what I'm saying, and I can tell she understands what I'm saying, even if she doesn't agree with me, it's okay. But if I can tell she does not understand where I'm coming from, or she can tell I don't understand where she's coming from, I haven't taken the time to really hear her, then all of a sudden it really matters whether or not that I understand her. So that is what it's about. When you can communicate to such a level where you understand each other, then all of a sudden it makes the next step possible. So I say that there, understanding someone does not mean we agree with them, just that we really know why they think or feel like they do. And only when we understand someone is getting to a place of mutual understanding made possible. So if you don't understand somebody in the first place, you'll never find common ground. Does that make sense? You'll never find common ground if you don't understand a person. And we say this a lot as human beings. It's like, I just don't even understand how that person thinks. I don't even understand why they do what they do. Well, do you want to understand? That's the question. If you want to understand, you'll take the time to hear them out, to go ask them a few questions, and communicate for understanding. If you don't want to understand, you're going to just write them off and say, I don't understand them, they're crazy, and you're not even going to go any farther. The relationship will not advance. So communicate for understanding. And this is a big one. Always resolve conflict when it's happening. So conflict is there to show us a lack of understanding or the difference in values that exist in a relationship. The way we respond to conflict can either separate us or be a catalyst for bringing us closer together. So conflict is necessary because it shows us the differences that people have in a relationship. So I might value going to McDonald's, and Sarah hates McDonald's. This is a hypothetical situation because I don't like McDonald's. Okay, just so everybody knows. But that, if I really wanted to go to McDonald's and Sarah does not want to go to McDonald's and we're fighting about it or we're having some conflict about it, that shows that we value something different. Does that make sense? So I like this and she doesn't. She wants this. So conflict is always showing some kind of difference in values or some kind of lack of understanding between each other. So it can be a catalyst to kind of push us into something different. So this is how I like to think of conflict. Think of a mutually agreeable resolution to conflict as buying more land together that didn't belong to the both of us before the conflict was resolved. So when there's conflict, we face it and we work through it and we come to a place of mutual understanding. Now we're thinking the same on something even bigger than we used to. So before, I liked McDonald's and Sarah liked, Ruth Chris Steakhouse or something. But we find a place in the middle that we both like, and now we've moved forward in our relationship. There's more that we have in common that we agree about. So now we're building something bigger and better together. So if you can take the conflict and resolve it, your relationship moves forward. It grows. Be looking for ways to learn and change. This is another big one. Our spouses know us better than anyone else, and because of that can help us grow more than most anyone in our lives, or those people that are closest to you, if we're not talking about marriage. But the people that are closest to us, they rub shoulders with us every day. They see us in our best and our worst moments. They see who we really are. And if we allow them to, they can help us grow. Our spouses have strengths where we have weaknesses, and our ability to learn and grow from their strengths is one of the best opportunities for growth we have. So for Sarah and I've always been generous with myself and generous with others. So if I had money, I was spending it on myself and others. I was saving. I was a pretty good saver too, but I was really generous with myself and others. Sarah entered my life, and she was more stingy with herself and also a little bit more stingy with others. So we both kind of have these opposite spectrums going on. But we didn't decide to keep separate bank accounts. We didn't decide to say, you know what you do with your money is what you do, and what I do with my money is what I do. Let's not face this conflict. We decided to learn and grow from each other. And over the years, we've become more the same. Sometimes Sarah's being generous with people, and I'm like, ouch, that's a lot of money. But there's other times where I'm being generous with people, and Sarah's coming along with me. So we kind of have rounded each other out a little bit. She's more generous, and I'm a bit more stingy than we both were when we entered the relationship. Or maybe saving. Maybe stingy is the wrong word. Does it make sense? Sarah's just laughing. But we become more like each other. Does that make sense? So my flat spots or my weaknesses tended to be Sarah's strong points, and the same on the other side. So we come together, we become better individuals because we were willing to face the conflict, work through it, find mutual ground, and then change. You have to be willing to change. So if you're not willing to change, then you're going to just stay as you are. You're not going to learn and grow from each other, and you're not going to become close to each other. So looking for ways to learn and change is huge. And then lastly, protect time together. Where we invest our time is where we get our results. We've been talking about that. So when we spend time with the person who's most important to us, we build something amazing together. Sarah and I are very sensitive, I guess you could say, or we feel very quickly when we don't have time together. We had our friends from San Francisco here about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They were with us for 9 days, 8 or 9 days, staying at our house, sleeping at our house, eating breakfast, eating lunch, eating dinner. We were together with them all the time. When I wasn't with them, I was working. So life was happening. And Sarah and I went for a run on Monday, which was maybe 40 minutes of being together, talking while we were running. Very quality time. But so we had some time of connecting with just each other. And it was Wednesday, I believe, about 2 days later, and Sarah and I were like, man, we gotta like spend some time together, because all of a sudden, little things you start not connecting on. You can tell when you're talking about something, it's like Sarah's saying one thing and I'm saying another, and we're just not connecting. So we feel the lack of time spent together very quickly. But it is something in our marriage that we have been like very, very intentional about, and that is spending lots of time together. So if you want to build something with somebody, if you want to be close to somebody and really enjoy that person, spend time together. When things start going a little crazy and you're not feeling the love between each other, that's often because you're not appreciating that person and just spending time together. At least that's what it is for me. So one thing I'm glad we've done over 12 years of marriage is spend lots of time together. So building a life together is a lifelong journey, not a destination. So make the journey amazing and love the destinations along the way. You'll never get to this place where it's like, wow, this is amazing, we can stop. There are destinations along the way, but it's a journey. So if you do, I think I'm going to go back to my beginning slide here. Doing the right things at the right time make marriage fun, easy, and rewarding. You can replace easy with whatever you want. But from our experience, some people make marriage look very difficult, and maybe it is. But for Sarah and I, all thanks to God, seriously, because He's the giver of every good thing, it has been amazing, and it's not been that difficult. We have lots of fun together, and I'm so glad I got married. Not regretting it one bit. So, I know that you guys know all this stuff, but I just wanted to tell you what I was thinking about. I took some time before we went on Thursday morning just to sit down and think about marriage and how much I love Sarah. Not for this talk, but just for myself. And then I was like, well, I'm going to just talk about it. But I'm super grateful for Sarah and that I got to marry her 12 years ago and that she said yes. It's been amazing.